Genesis chapter 3, and we are going to go through the entire chapter. We are going to dabble in chapter 2, and my church knows there is no way of God's green earth I'll do that in 13 minutes. And so what we're going to do today is we are going to kind of look at that text, kind of walk around in it. And so as I was thinking about it this morning, this is what I call the Reagan paraphrased and illustrated version. And so I encourage you to go back, read Genesis chapter 2, chapter 3, make sure that I'm telling you the truth, and don't take my word for it, but the Spirit leads you in some things. Got a confession this morning, a couple of confessions, honestly. I grew up in church. I'm a pastor's kid. I was saved when I was 16 years old. And a confession I have today is that I do love the Lord. Okay? But a real confession is I haven't always. Even as a believer, I would sit in church, we would sing, I love you, Lord, and you may have sang those words, and, you know, I don't know if you've ever thought about the words you're singing, and you're singing some of the songs you sing. Me and my brother would always play around when the rolls are done, if yonder we'll be there, and when the roll is called up yonder, I'll be there. We'd always play with the words, because we were bored out of our minds, because the words had no meaning to us, because we had no real relationship. Did I just kind of go real quick into it? And so I remember when I got honest with God later in life, and still as a teenager, I think 19 or so, this I love you, Lord thing came up, and I said, you know, God, let's be honest. And when I say that, I mean me. Okay? I don't love you. I mean, I trust you. I believe in you. But you and I both know that for me to say I love you would be a lot. And God was cool with that. And so what he began to do, and I didn't know it, I just began to become open to the fact that from the beginning of my birth, God had been pursuing me in love. And at that time, I began to be open to seeing what he had been doing from the beginning. And so, as I began to study scriptures, I began to see God's love open up, and I began to understand. It's hard to love somebody you don't really know. And so God began to open up who he is to me. And I just want to share with you a couple of things that God showed me in Genesis chapter 3. And a lot of things in here get the attention, and you've probably read this 1 million times, heard it. This is the story, the temptation and the fall. And this is actually God's love story, chapter 1. Okay? And what I want us to start with is our own understanding of God that we see in this passage. And this is verses 1 to 7. And this is where we enter that Reagan Reeves paraphrased and illustrated version, okay? Because this is not going to be, for those of you that might understand what I'm saying right now, this is not going to be an exhaustive exegesis of this passage, okay? I'm just going to tap on a few things because what I want you to get at is I want you to see God in the middle of this. So many times we read the Bible, we try to identify ourselves in it, and see how it applies to my life, and we miss God coming off the pages. Okay, so look at it from God's perspective, and here we go. Here's Adam and Eve in the garden, and, here comes the little serpent, and hey, did God really say this? And no, he's holding back. You can really be like it if you just eat the fruit. You know everything. You'd understand everything. God's holding out on you. Your full potential has not been met. Okay? Let's look at a couple of things here. Number one, Adam and Eve were very limited in their understanding. They weren't even a year old. That's kind of weird, because they're like 30-year-old bodies. But they weren't even a year old. What were you doing when you were a year old? You You should. What would you have done if you had an adult body? Oh my soul, you guilty. Anyway, so give me my bottle now. Anyway, sorry. This is Reagan Reeves. I apologize. All right. But understand they were deceived by their desires as well. Do you remember what happened? What occurred? She looked at the fruit, and it was good for food, and it was purty. That's Southeast Texas language. It was purty. It was good for food, and she would get smarter. You ever read a book, take some pills, because you might have a pill to you, might make you skinnier, might make you smarter, might make you stay up longer? Same temptations. Different stuff. Same as desires. Why did Adam on the flip side of that? You know, hey, she ate, she's going to die, I got to be alone with you. And that stuck for the whole few hours that I had it. Had to go through all those animals. Hey, I ain't doing that again. All these things going on there. Then you move on. Then you got this other individual involved, Satan. And he's no friend. Takes God's words, twists them around, just so he can deceive her, so that he can get to the real thing. Adam, he's in the direct image of God. Only two men were that way. Jesus and God, and Adam, right? The two men. That's another sermon. All right? So he was aiming for him. So he used Eve to get to him so he could destroy them both. You got all this twisting and all this deceit and all these desires. And then after they eat, y'all wake up there? Right? And so they're, you know, and then fig leaves, and they're itchy, and they're not. It's not much sense. You can tell they weren't even a year old. They didn't know anything. Right? There's all this dread, and all this fear, and all this shame, and all this. Never experienced any of that before. God didn't mention that when they eat that. He just said they'd die, whatever that was. They knew it wasn't living, but they sure didn't know that it would involve shame and fear and weird. And by the end of this passage, we'll see that this couple that was so in love, it was her fault. It was the servant's fault. And and then eventually Adam's like, God, this is your fault. Mm-hmm. If you hadn't given me that woman, I'd be perfect. And all the rationalization and all the excuses and all the things that we use to justify ourselves and whatever it is we do. If we slight somebody, if we're in the park and a little kid does something and we don't get them their food on time, it's okay, right? You shouldn't have said that. Oh, we're so good at making excuses. I don't want to focus on us. Because we're not very lovable, are we? You got anybody you know that's not very lovable? It's not you? Right? You encounter any unlovely people this week already? They're coming. Just a little foretaste. But the beautiful part about this text begins in verse 8. All this is going on, everything's going crazy and nuts. And then you begin to see the heart of God, and the heart that God has always had, and the reason why He created, the reason why He's still doing stuff. Verse 8. Woo! Alright, here we go. Then the man and his wife heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden at the time of the evening breeze, is what mine says. Do you know what that word is? Ruach. Isn't it lovely? Ruach. Sounds like you're hopping a loogie. Okay, ruach. Okay, and what that word means in Hebrew is breath, wind, spirit. Okay? So God created the heavens and earth, there was void and formless, as the spirit, the darkness covered the surface of the deep, and the Ruach of God was covering over the surface of the waters. So here's the surface of the waters, and here's what it looks like. That's what it's saying. God's not way off there, somewhere off in the universe. No, he's right over the waters. And then it says that when God made man in his image, he knelt down and he made this dirt, this big clay man. He was doing it over the waters. Now he's doing it over the man. And he's not far off in the distance somewhere. No! And so now we find Adam and Eve blowing everything, messing everything up. Satan's on the middle of it. What's God doing? It's in the spirit time of the day. This was the time of day that God came down every day to come chill out. Regular paraphrase. Chill out with Adam and Eve. So all this stuff is going on. And did God change? Yeah. And a lot of this text, this is great. You're going to like this. Alright? There's just too much in this text. So what do we got? So what did they do? So the Lord, So they hid themselves from the Lord God among the trees of the garden. Now in the Hebrew, they use a wonderful word. I love this word. I've been meditating on this word for about 2 years. The word is panim. Panay. You know what it means? Faith. And its root word is to turn. And see, when I'm looking at you, you know what I see? I see this. I see. See them up there? Crazy. Nuts. What am I doing? My face is turning. Do you see it in the passage? So here comes God in the middle of the day. They know he's coming. Cool time of the day. Here comes God, and he's coming. And everywhere he's looking, they're running. Y'all know what I'm saying? Y'all ever get in trouble in the house? Yeah. All right, so I need God. You want to be God, Harold? Come on here. All right. So try coming this way. Hope, 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 hope. That's what they're doing. They're hiding from the turn of God. God turns this way, they run. He runs this way. Right? That's what they're doing. That's what's going on in this text. It's the first person getting a whipping in all the history. Or that's what they think is going to happen. And they're running around, so finally, what's he do? It says in the text, it's just like your house all over again. Hey! Where are you? Like, did God know where they were? Yeah. If you have kids, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They're over there hiding, their rears poking out. I'm hiding from you. You can't see me. And who's the fear? It's the child. And it's us. It has nothing to do with God. It's all about us. Because we introduce something into the world. And whew, something is introduced in this. They didn't understand what was happening. Paul mentions it. It's called the law of sin and death. And death was illustrating what we just did. When we think of death, we think of funerals, we think of graveyards and cemeteries. Death is a separation. Death is when I see you, I walk the other way. That never existed before. One bite, and they're running. One mistake, one thing. But that's the nature of man. We can focus on that. God caught up to him. And then we have this text, and we could go through it of all the curses and all the things. But you know what? Those curses are beautiful. What? Think of hell. Day and night torture. Separation from God, every pain, every anxiety that you can imagine all the time. But what God does in this text, just like he did in all creation, he began to set boundaries for sin and boundaries for death. So even in his judgment, He shows mercy by restricting what sin is going to affect, how it affects the woman. She's only going to have pain in childbirth. She could have had it the rest of her life, but only in childbirth. God's going to curse the ground. It's still going to produce. God's still kind in that. It's going to just be a little bit harder until both of us go and return to it. For dust we are, and dust we will return. You never saw that as protection, did you? It could have been a lot worse. What was the punishment again? You remember in chapter 2?
Death.
What was the punishment? Curses? Hard labor? No. Tell me.
Death.
Death. Death didn't come. This is the good part. We've got to hurry. We've got negative 2 minutes. Serpent gets cursed. Only animal that doesn't have legs. But the main thing is Satan. And this is the beautiful part. There's going to be a boy that's going to come from the woman. Read it. And he is going to crush your head, and you will bruise his heel. He's going to kill you and destroy you utterly, but you will get him and you will kill him. And then the most beautiful verse in this passage, and we'll close with this, is God's provision and His coverings. But when we think of that, we think of them getting clothes, right? Look at verse 21. The Lord God made clothing out of skins for Adam and his wife, and He clothed them. Now wait a minute, where did they get the skins from? What? Wherever God got them, you've got to kill something to get skin, right? Reagan paraphrase version. So Jesus shows up and says, listen, I'll tell you something. The guy that's going to curse the serpent, let me tell you something. What you got to do until I come, you need to kill this. I'm going to show you how to sacrifice. Because from this point forward, they start sacrificing animals. Where did they learn how to do that? The high priest came down and showed them how. And so at the end of this text, beginning of the text, we saw, and God shows up, sets boundaries on what needs to happen now that sin's been introduced into the world. And we end up with God, with Adam and Eve, dressed in some new clothes, restored the relationship. Did they deserve that? No. They deserve death. But God takes you from wherever you have been, wherever you have brought yourself to, and provides for what you need and is willing to walk with you forward if you're willing to walk with Him. That, my friends, is called reconciliation. Whatever you've done, whatever you think you've said or you've blown, it can be fixed, it can be replaced. God will come with you. That doesn't mean there won't be consequences with what happened. But it does mean that He's going to walk right beside you in the middle. Woo! Amen! That's good preaching. Sometimes the preacher got to amen himself. All right. Are we good? All right. If y'all haven't noticed, I'm not real normal. All right. So I'm done. So I guess I'll pray and we'll be done. Father, thank you for today. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for the way that you demonstrate your love to us. Not just you died for us, but that you live for us. Every moment of our lives that we're pursuing this. Help us to learn to pursue you as we are pursued. In Jesus' name. Bless the food. Amen. Amen. Amen.